All right. So we're going to do something a little different today. In the background, I'm going to have CNA. CNA is live on YouTube. You can all go and check it out. They have 3 million subscribers. They are, according to them, they stay informed around the clock with CNA's 24-hour coverage, bringing you the latest headlines from Singapore, Asia, and beyond. So the reason I am putting this on in the background is because I was totally thrown off by a stream or by a video I attempted to do yesterday. I was attempting to read X on my computer, and for some reason, X on my computer has to be the laggiest piece of garbage of all time. It just doesn't work. So what I decided to do is I'm just going to have this running in the background. You'll see some live news, and what's going on in Asia is usually hot and important. But what's going on this week is especially important because you have all the world leaders going and meeting at the Asian business conferences. There's meetings going on between the United States and South Korea, the Chinese and the United States having their negotiations. There's a lot going on. So what I wanted to do was I'm going to leave this running in the background while I talk about stuff on my news feed on X. This way, my rhythm isn't disrupted, by anything. I keep the rhythm of the night. Yeah. All right. Anyway, Terrible reported on X electricity costs in the United States. So since 2023, electricity prices have risen faster than the pace of inflation, and this is being produced by the Visual Capitalist. As of October 2025, the source was the internal property data collected and cataloged from utilities and energy providers in the EIA Electric Choice. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's see how bad. Now, there's been a lot recently. Gavin Newsom talks a lot about how great California is. California, you are paying 30.1 cents for kilowatts. Now, just so we understand, um the average in the United States for kilowatts is 15.2 cents per kilowatt. Okay. The low is 10.1, the high is 38.3. California, you are the second highest, most expensive state in the union for electricity at 30.1 cents per kilowatt. The only one higher is Hawaii, which you could almost understand. New York, Maine, and Alaska coming in all at over 24 cents per kilowatt. DC is at 21 cents. Funny enough, Virginia is 12.5 cents. Pennsylvania is 16 cents. Maryland 17. So DC's paying me a premium. New Jersey, home state, 21.4 cents per kilowatt. Connecticut's at 24.3. Wow, I mean, it's brutal. So the Northeast, California, Alaska, Hawaii are the worst states for electricity costs. Meanwhile, if you live in Nebraska, 11 cents. If you live in Oregon, 13 cents. If you live in Minnesota, 15 cents. Texas, 11 cents. Louisiana, 11. Florida, 13 cents. Alabama, 15 cents. Tennessee, 13 cents. Kentucky, 12. I mean, none of this, the only states that are over 20 cents per kilowatt are New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, California, Alaska, Hawaii, and then you have the District of Columbia. So there you go. Pretty pathetic. See here from credit to Wide Awake Media, they say Hillary Clinton suggests Americans who disseminate propaganda should face criminal charges. Let's listen to the audio here. And boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence because there's a pattern that boosting Trump. All right. So this is the second time I've seen something in the last 24 hours where a prominent former leader of the Democratic Party has talked about, curbing free speech, over misinformation, regulating speech. Um, again, we have a constitution, and our people, our government, and our leaders, and the people who represent the trend line of our government, they don't believe in any of it. They just don't. I mean, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, I think they're both lawyers, and they both are, talking about curbing free speech. They're like, well, free speech, it's nice, but, we have to control it. um, you know, they just don't like the fact that people are free enough now of the media power structure that they are able to disseminate information that may run against the uh the 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 propaganda machine. So, that's not great. Let's see here. Senator Ruben Gallego demands the arrest of President Donald Trump if he runs for a third term. Quote, he will be in violation of the Constitution and should be arrested if he attempts to do that. He'd be in violation of the Constitution and should be arrested. If he files to run for the presidency and attempts to run, then circumvents and ignores the rules. That would be a quick decision by SCOTUS. Okay. I think Trump is trolling on that, but I guess you never know with him. Uh, Based Hungary. It's a good account. Shout out to these guys. Zelensky's time is running out. Well, I mean, it's without the support of the rest of the world I mean, they're running out of troops. So even if you give them money, that's not really enough. And they're losing, they don't even have support of their neighbors. When you have country like Hungary basically telling them to cut it or cool it, that's not a great sign. Let's see. Larry Elder, conservative. He says, "Given another 6 months, Gavin Newsom will start saying that he was a poor black child born in candlelit log cabin and had to walk barefoot 4 miles each way of broken glass." Yeah, I mean, look, Gavin Newsom is what is he saying? He said Gavin Newsom's story about hustling to pay the bills raises eyebrows, given his family's ties to billionaire heir. That's a little odd. I mean, his aunt is a sitting senator from California for 60 years. I don't think he comes from a family that struggled. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'd love for someone to maybe put in the comments, but I don't believe he comes from a family that struggled. I mean, this is not I don't think that's accurate. Jackson Hinkle posted breaking. World's tallest dam pumped storage hydropower plant fully operational in China. Oh, funny. This was on Caleb Maupin just put a video up on his stream last night that was sent to him from a member of the Center for Political Innovation where they talked about this the new tallest dam. China, look, when you this is communism, but this is also China. This is China's focusing on producing goods and services for the betterment of your country versus focusing on warmongering. It's amazing when you put your energy towards it and you have the education and you have the know-how and the will, what you could do. I mean, this is just it's an amazing thing to see. And I just I don't know. I look at the United States and our infrastructure. It's just such a disgrace what's going on. It really is. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me that our country can't put in the energy and the money into these things. But yeah, China's doing a great job. It's a great country. I can't wait to visit. I really hope I can rent an apartment there for my family and be able to spend time there. I really, really do. Nothing but respect for them and certainly respect for their ideology and their history. Blah, blah, blah. Save America posted. Do you support taking pay away from all members of Congress if the government shuts down? Yeah, I mean, look, if they're not working, why should they be paid? Um, I mean, they're the ones who control the purse strings. They're the ones who decide if the government is shut down or not. All of them. I mean, I don't just want to see them lose their pay. I want to see strict term limits. I want to see turnover based on performance. I want performance metrics set. I'd like to see all of the processes or all of the departments that are currently not in operation, I'd like to see them all, shut down immediately. Um, if we're basically capable of functioning for 4 weeks without some services, then we could save trillions of dollars by getting rid of them. So let's take it even a step further. The Patriotic Blonde posted this. Let me get this straight. If the government is shut down, FBI Director Kash Patel is still allowed to take the FBI's private jet to visit his girlfriend, even though it costs the taxpayers $50,000 for him to do so. Is that real? Because that sounds ridiculous. I don't know why he shouldn't. I mean, if he wants to take time to go visit his girlfriend, he should be paying for that himself. Why am I paying for him to do that? That seems ridiculous. Okay, so Red Pill USA. Trump doesn't work for you. He works for the pharmaceutical and tech oligarchs and military. Yeah, I mean, look, this time around, he had the support of of a section of the power structure. So the last time around, everybody was basically supporting Hillary Clinton. This time around, it was definitely a split. And these guys, they don't care who the president is. They're the donor class. They get first say, and they're all going to benefit. Look, cheaper energy benefits companies that are expending tremendous amounts of money on data centers. So, they don't mind his policies as long as he's not hurting them. I mean, they don't love the elimination of some illegal immigration, but he hasn't deported a lot of people compared to Obama. So, I don't know. I just don't. I mean, look, Trump was a Democrat most of his life. Democrats and Republicans are very similar. They're typically controlled by the same entities and the same donors. So, it's a little disingenuous to judge these parties like they're completely different things. I don't believe that's the case. There's a lot of crossover between the parties. Liz Cheney is a huge influence on the Democratic Party now, and most of the top Republicans were Democrats. So yeah, they're all full of shit in a lot of ways. Um, the only thing they won't do is what's best for average people. Um, you know, that's typically what happens. Bu- 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 So someone posted, I don't think we've had legitimate elections in decades. No way the Senate's 53-47. No way the House is 222-15. Democrats are 20% party with 20% cheating operation. The amount of theft is staggering from illegals to ballot operations. I mean, I don't know. I do find it odd. The Democrats seem a lot less popular these days than ever, and yet they still have a pretty decent representation in Congress. But I mean, look, you have Republicans in the Northeast. I mean, that's the funny thing. The Republicans in the Northeast, from New York through all of New England, specifically in New England, Republicans represent about at least 35 to 45% of the electorate, yet they don't have any congressmen or senators from that area. I don't think there's one Republican senator or congressman, or at least those senators from that area. So it's a little odd. I I guess you could look at the elections. I mean, yeah, look, there's a lot of nonsense going on. I don't know. Both parties are pretty terrible. Heads of China MFA spokesperson. Heads of state diplomacy plays an irreplaceable role in providing the strategic guidance for the U.S. or for China-U.S. relations. In Busan, President Xi Jinping and President Donald Trump will have an in-depth exchange of views on strategic and long-term issues concerning bilateral uh, ties, and major issues of mutual interest. China stands ready to work with the U.S. to achieve positive outcomes and provide new guidance and impetus for the steady development of China U.S. relations. Good. Nothing to argue with there. Uh, okay, let's. I forget this lady's name. She's a reporter. Oh man, I don't remember her name. Let's just listen to what she says.
Fetterman himself, his Zionism puts him out of step with the rest of his party, which, I'm sorry, only 13% stand with Israelis against the Palestinians. This is a party whose grassroots is right now captured by the left. And so Zionism does not have a future in the American left. The Democratic Party's relationship with Zionism depends on whether it's willing to repudiate that far left. And the thing that makes this so appalling is that Jews built the left in this country. We built the labor movement. We broke the New Deal. 70% of the lawyers who worked on civil rights cases were Jews. We've been at the forefront of every liberal and leftist issue in this country. The absolute chutzpah of saying, you're not welcome here. You know what it reminds me of? When they banned smoking in bars, I was a smoker, and I was so outraged. I was like, if there's going to be a turf war over this, surely the smokers should have gone in the bars. Okay? And you can so easily imagine a counterfactual in which the left in America said, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. We can't oppose Zionism because we would lose our beloved Jews who have been there with us at the forefront every minute that we built this movement. We have to find a way to make sure that Zionists still feel welcome. How dare we could never do that to them. And they didn't do that. They did the opposite. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. It's a weird comment from her. It's a weird comment and thing to argue about. I mean, I guess what that tells you is that in her mind and the mind of the audience there, that Zionism and Judaism have to be aligned and tied together. But in reality, Zionism and Judaism are not the same thing. Zionism is in support of a nation state, a state that's supposed to be theocracy, although a lot of people within it are not very religious. Um, it is not, they're not equal. One is a religion and one is about a state. So it's, if people don't like the if they don't like the policies of the state, that doesn't mean that they don't appreciate the religion. And certainly people who are Jewish themselves, Judaism predates the state of Israel. Yahweh worship predates Israel as a state, because the Bible, says that, Adam was, or not Adam, Abraham, he was called out of Ur, he was called out of southern Iraq, and Yahweh, God, the God of the Bible, who's Yahweh, advised him to go on to Israel, and that God was not given land, he was given people. And the idea that you're tying your whole religion to a political movement, it's it's an aspect of your theocracy, but of your theology, but it is not the theology itself. It doesn't say in the Ten Commandments, you must have the state of Israel and you must, conquer this specific land plot. I don't think that's in there. Unless if I'm mistaken, please point it out. So this is odd, and that stance is a little odd. Uh, this is a quote from James Woods. Quote, how do Republicans hold all the power yet can't bring criminals to justice, but Democrats push all these hoaxes through and hold hearings nonstop? Is there one single Republican with balls besides Trump? Just one. Well, look, I mean, it's a weak party. They're controlled opposition. Trump is the only one who's not controlled opposition. So, it's fair to look at them in that way. Oh boy, let's see. It's always good news when you scroll through the feed, right? Yeah, it's usually pretty terrible. Let's see. Ba 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 ba. So let me go on make sure I'm not missing anything on here. Okay. Someone talking about Vanguard and BlackRock holding large stakes in Tesla. Okay. Breitbart News. Rising Democrat star Graham Plattner says he got his Nazi tattoo covered up just days after it became a scandal for him. Claims he didn't know the association with the Third Reich until this month. Let's hear what he's
You
saying
got it
here.
covered up. And as soon as you learned you got it covered up immediately within days, within a day, what was the process there?
It was a busy weekend when we found out. I didn't get to it, I think, until that Tuesday. But yeah, it was within a few days.
Now, your former political director, who I know is no longer with the campaign, said you knew in the summer. Are you saying that she is lying, I guess, about when you knew that this was a problematic symbol?
That is not true. And she also wasn't involved in the campaign in the summer. So yeah.
I still haven't even seen the symbol. I don't think, or if I did, it was ambiguous to me. I mean, look. I guess I care a little bit, but I care more about his views than I do. And I'm sorry, I wasn't even looking at my screen, so I didn't realize this ad was running. I care more about his views and his policies than I do his tattoo. Um, I will say that I have this feeling that he is not that he is going to be another DSA type candidate. He's getting a lot of play in the media. Now, some of the some of the big wigs in the Democratic Party are against him, like Schumer, but I do think that, he's another Bernie Sanders type. And, Bernie is another faux socialist. They don't really believe in socialism. They have no interest in communism. They never talk about, they'll talk about working class people, but they don't talk about um, anti-imperialism. They don't oppose any of the foreign wars. They're never out there protesting any of those things. I've never seen them talk about redistributing some of the money from the wasteful programs that we absolutely have to programs that would be of better assistance. They talk about fighting the oligarchy. I've seen him, Bernie has been saying that for 30, 40 years, yet he's a multimillionaire. There's nothing wrong with wealth. It's just odd that he talks on and on and on about the billionaires when he's got, tens of millions of dollars. And he's basically a grifter from Brooklyn who lives in, Vermont and somehow gets elected out of Vermont. I have no idea how. Nobody in Vermont sounds like him. Look, he just comes off as a con artist. I don't see him protesting saying get your hands off Venezuela. I don't see him out there saying, hey, let's end the bombing in Israel, let's get peace. I don't see him saying we don't want war with, between Ukraine and Russia. I've never heard him say that. He's a grifter. He's typical to there's a fake movement in the left wing that's existed for a long time that has captured the term socialist because they know that on college campuses, if they promise kids free stuff, then they'll think, oh, free stuff, that's great. Free stuff. I'm a socialist too. That's not socialism. Look at socialist countries. Look at China. Are they all about free bus passes? No. So let's get a little bit above that, okay? RNC Research Abigail Spanberger says she opposes voter ID laws. Some of these hurdles by okay, she says, quote, some of these hurdles by really disadvantage new voters and particularly young voters. Okay, so she's saying that, young people and newer voters really struggle with ID. I mean, I had a state ID when I was 16, maybe younger. I had a driver's license. I'm not following this struggle for an ID. I mean, obviously there's a push against IDs from the Democrats because they seem to have an issue with identifying people when they vote. They don't mind giving out driver's license to people, but they don't want them to be ID'd and put in a reference book or anything when they vote because then it'll be obvious that they're not a resident and blah blah blah. So I mean, look, it's the same old nonsense from them. They don't want accountability in the elections. Um, Wall Street Apes posted American showing how much she was charged for hysterectomy in an American hospital. Without insurance, the cost is $105,000. I looked it up. This exact same procedure in Mexico is $3,500 to $5,000. That's over $100,000 tie up and charge. Wow, let's listen to
Just
this.
imagine the cost of a brain
Oops,
surgery or
sorry.
back from my insurance company. This is the
So she's showing the
statement for
paper.
my hysterectomy I had earlier this year. The hospital charged over $105,000. Over $105,000. I am thankful and feel blessed and fortunate to have insurance to cover this. This is a very expensive surgery. I didn't realize this. I can only just imagine the cost of a brain surgery or back surgery, anything major that requires a full medical team, medicine, blood tests, all these work that needs to be done during the surgery and after surgery. If you're planning to have a hysterectomy, keep in mind the cost and make sure that your insurance is covering as much as possible.
Yeah, that's brutal. Our system is so broken. We are all about insurance, over financializing healthcare. It doesn't have to be like this. And even in Mexico, I mean, look, thousands of dollars, that's still a lot of money. I don't think most Americans have $3,000 just lying around in their bank account to pay for anything. So, I mean, it's even that is a lot of money. In China, you could get you. It's not. It's all free, but it's very cheap. I mean, you can get healthcare costs down if you're not looking to extract every penny out of every transaction. Our system just doesn't work because it's all about maximum profit. It has nothing to do with better. There's a fiduciary responsibility of every business operator to make as much money as possible. And insurance is a business. Medical care is a business. It's not about the people. It's about money, and our whole society is built that way. And until we start making some changes, and there's a lot of fake people out there in government who pretend like they understand that concept, but they are absolutely in bed with people who are part of the money making machine. And healthcare, housing, these things, it doesn't have to be this way. There are countries that don't exist in that ethos. Legitimate Targets posted breaking Taiwan's leader said he wants the Israeli model for defense, quote unquote, while speaking at an APAC dinner this weekend. So yeah, there's APAC representatives in Taiwan right now, and they're talking about, look, I mean, obviously they want to show themselves to be the Israel of uh the South Pacific. And of course, one of the things that Mao himself, I guess, had said was that, and I'm paraphrasing, that Taiwan was created to be the Israel of our area, that it's basically there to work against us the way that Israel was there to work against the Arabs. So yeah, interesting that that's said. Let's see. Someone posted, billionaires, we started from nothing in our parents' garage. And then they show the garage, and it's a bunch of occult symbolism, symbols of the Freemasons, etc. Yeah. Sure. Uh, so France in 2025, this is posted by Jim Ferguson in the UK. 11 citizens are on trial, not for violence, not for hate, but for retweeting jokes. Their crime: sharing posts inspired by an unauthorized biography of Brigitte Macron that was never charged with defamation or proven false in court. Okay. Their homes were raided, their phones were seized, elderly and disabled people interrogated, all under Cyber Operations Unit run from Macron's own office by a former DGSE intelligence officer. This isn't democracy, it's digital authoritarianism dressed in designer suits. When the French state prosecutes memes and retweets, it's not, yeah. Look, it happens in the UK and now it's happening in France. They're just suing people or they're going after people based on their online presence. And, Macron, he has a interesting take. France is becoming a disaster zone. Apparently, Charlie Kirk's close friend Frank Turek says the best thing that could happen right now would be for the internet to go down because it's fueling conspiracy theories about Charlie Kirk's death. He tells Candace Owens to shut her mouth, saying she has no evidence and that God hates dissension among the brothers. Turek says Charlie Kirk's chief of staff, Mike McCoy, was a hero on the very day Charlie died. He's a hero because he made a phone call? How is he a hero? He didn't do anything. He didn't even help his friend get into the car when he was bleeding to death. What is he talking about? We all see the tape. I mean, we're supposed to believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. I don't know if you're familiar with the song Heard It Through the Grapevine. It's an old Marvin Gaye song, but the point of the song is there's going to be stories told through the grapevine, but you should believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. Well, if I believe half of what I see, I'm supposed to believe Charlie Kirk was shot by an assassin that shot him, in the neck with a gun, but it appears like there's more going on than that. And certainly I'm not going to believe anything that I'm told by people who seem to be very interested in ending this investigation. There's been no autopsy done. There's, very, very shady work. The FBI posted some fake text exchange between Robinson and his boyfriend. I mean, the whole thing is very sketch. DC Drano. Okay. Posting Bernie Sanders is a U.S. Senator, has multiple houses, flies on private jets, yet he says he stands up to the oligarchy. Bro, you are the oligarchy. Well, I mean, that's true. Bernie's posting billionaires have spent $19 million to try and defeat Zoran Mamdani. Over the next week, they're going to spend a hell of a lot more. Early voting has started. Look, I mean, it's worrisome to me that Mamdani and Bernie seem to be, working together. It's not a good sign for him. China's embassy in the U.S. They posted or they reposted a tweet from Liao Pengyu. China remains Asia's largest source of visitors from outside the bloc, highlighting the flourishing people to people exchanges between China and Southeast Asia. Visiting arrivals to ASEAN by country, ranked by visits from outside Asia in 2024. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so China has over 20 million people visiting Asian countries. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because it's not a long a it's not a long trip, and then this way you know, it's also helpful for them because Asian's a great economic bloc, so that's it makes sense. Look, South Korea though, 9 million, that's still a lot. The U.S. less than five, like 4 million, 20 billion people. They got to go on vacation somewhere. Do you support President Trump killing cartel members smuggling drugs on boats? If you know they are, you should really arrest them. I don't know if you just randomly shoot at boats. I don't like that. I don't like the situation with Venezuela. I don't think that's America first. I think that's to me stretching and doing some neocon like work and operation. So I'm not sure about that. And someone posted an unemployed woman used her food stamps to shop at Erewhon Market in Los Angeles, enjoying meals that rival what many middle class households struggle to afford. So she bought some sushi at the market. Oh boy. Look, these kind of videos will trigger people. I don't know her circumstances. It's not great seeing someone eating sushi, which is considered kind of a delicacy with her food stamps. I will say I don't know what Erewhon Market is. I don't know if that's supposed to be fancy or not. I will say this though. I am not I don't think the US can be a piggy bank for everybody and just be a massive welfare state. That's not socialism, that's not, that's not anything. But I will say that it is also a problem for people to go so hard against people who are on food stamps. The United States does have a $5 trillion budget. And we seem to have lots of money for military bases all over the world. We have lots of money for bombs. We have lots of money for contracts with um, arms dealers and all kinds of, we have a lot of money for a lot of stuff that we don't typically or that we don't seem to need. But we don't have money for food. Like, I want to see people eating a lot. I do because we have an abundance of food. I mean, I will say that it partially bothers me when I know I have to work. I work and we do okay, but I work and I don't think I can just get whatever I want at any point in time. But at the same time, I think it's really unfair to just focus on food stamps and say, well, people in food stamps shouldn't get this and that. That market would take that food and throw it out if she didn't buy it. She's not buying the last piece of sushi where somebody who worked 80 hours a week and makes a lot of money didn't get to buy the sushi. Everybody could buy the sushi. Okay? That sushi's going to go in the garbage. So we have to start remembering that we have an abundance of things and we still have poverty. We have an abundance of electronics that people can't afford. We have an abundance of uh of food and people still starve. We have an abundance of housing and people still can't afford to get a home. We have cars all over the place and there are a lot of people that don't have a car. So we have an abundance of stuff and that stuff is going to get thrown in the trash heap. And it doesn't make sense. Let's stop wasting our resources. Let's start uh respecting our people and respecting our needs. So I agree. If you're on food stamps, look, the goal if you're on food stamps to get off food stamps. Should you be posting TikTok videos of yourself eating sushi when you're on food stamps? I think that's pretty that's lacking some self-awareness. Though that meal was paid for by me. And if you're trying to be obnoxious and brag, like, haha, I'm using your money to buy a delicacy, well, it's a little obnoxious, but at the same time, what's really obnoxious is that we have billions of dollars to waste on nonsense, and that food would get thrown in the garbage anyway. Maybe that food should be super cheap. You ever think about that? Why should it be so expensive? So I feel I'm a little against everyone on this stuff. Breaking news. A lot of people write breaking news on X and it's stuff that is so fucking benign. It's unbelievable. Breaking news. Hollywood director Tyler Perry $100,000 to Bishop Marvin Winans Perfecting Church in Detroit. This donation was made in response to a viral moment when the pastor humiliated a woman and her child for not donating $2,000. Huh? So he gives $100,000 to a pastor who's grifting some poor black people out of money and was pissed that they didn't give enough money? That guy has made a fortune off of mocking the worst of black culture, dressing up as a woman, humiliating us. I mean, he'll say he's showing family values. I mean, he makes us look like a fucking circus. I don't give a shit what he donates to and with his own money, but this guy has literally made a fortune by taking black people's culture and putting it up and embarrassing us and raking us over the coals as a joke. Now, is he as bad as the producers who put out music that make us look like circus animals and encourage fucking kids to act like fucking garbage? No, maybe not. But he's not much better. This woman is screaming, 5 days ago, 5 days no food. And now they decreased my EBT from $4,300 a month to $19 a month for 6 kids. No cash benefits, no Section 8. We're going to be homeless by next month. How is this making America great again, Mr. Trump?
That I get every
And
single month to pay my bills. I'm losing my Section 8. My food stamps have now decreased from $4,300 to $19 a month for 6 kids. How the hell am I supposed to feed 6 kids on $19 a freaking month? On top of having to come up with rent, because now I don't have Section 8. Cash benefits, no cash benefits. My $300 utility check that I get every single month, I will no longer be getting.
wait,
We're going to be left out on the fucking streets. If they take all of my food stamps, I don't even have a fucking dollar to my name, and I have 6 kids to feed.
okay, I mean, there's a lot going on here. Um, Well, one, I really hope that she's not going to be on the streets with her 6 kids. That's horrible. I don't know why her benefits would be $19 a month for 6 kids. Nobody could eat in America on $19 a month. So that's outrageous. I hope that's wrong, and that if that's the case, that's terrible. Um, now I'm not sure what's going on here where she says no cash benefits, no Section 8. So she's saying she's losing her Section 8 housing. So that's a little odd. Now she says she also gets $300 for her electric bill. So the government, so I'm this is a little all over the place. She lives in Section 8 housing, or she does not live in Section 8 housing. Maybe that's what she meant. Because if you live in Section 8 housing, maybe you could put in the comments if someone lives in Section 8 housing, do they have to pay $300 a month for electricity? Wouldn't the electricity be covered? I don't understand. Why is she getting a separate $300 check for electricity, but also $4,300 a month she gets in food stamps? She makes $4,000 a month in food stamps. There is no fucking way that she's spending $4,000 a month on food. So all see, this is just wrong in every direction. You need to support your citizens. You can't have people without homes. You can't have people without food. You can't have people without all these things are very true. But this is a fucking disgrace that you're handing over $4,000 to this woman. There's no way she's spending that kind of money. What are you doing? The whole thing is crooked. I don't understand that at all. James Wood posted. Well, there's some of these Americans in China are definitely, you know, they're odd. Like I feel like they're rooting for a war or something because they think they're going to benefit or cover it. I don't understand this. Like this comment is very strange. The U.S. is on track to lose a war with China. The U.S. would lose a war with China, lose a war against China not because of bravery, but because production and power technology. Modern warfare isn't about valor or lethality. It's about who can build, adapt, and sustain. Well, I don't disagree. I mean, I definitely think, I mean, I don't even, why are you even talking about war, bro? That's just so, it just feels like a grift. It's like there was a guy on here who I used to follow who I can't even watch anymore, Jason Smith, and he just comes off as such a fucking grifter. He says he's an American. I mean, I don't know. That's a loose connotation. I don't know if he is or he isn't. He says he's an American living in China. He married a Chinese woman. He lives in China, and all he does every day is just post about China. I got some advice for you, okay? And this is coming from someone who is definitely, if I'm not a communist, I don't know what I am, but I'm certainly I think that the communist system in China works better than the United States, and I love China. I can't wait to get there. I love Russia. I have empathy, and I have true like emotional and intellectual support for these countries. But let me just say something. If you're an American living in China, why are you posting on an American platform all day, every day about how terrible America is and how great China is? Like, are you a scorned ex-girlfriend that wants people to feel like, now look at me, I'm attractive and you wish you had me? Like, what is the point? Like, I'm not saying that some of the facts are wrong, some of the details are right. But what I think is a little odd, okay, what I think is really, really, really odd is when you have people who are like Li Jing or whatever. She is like a fucking grifter to the oomph degree. Horrible representation of China. She goes on every day and posts and posts and posts, and she's very rude to the Americans. She's rude. I've never seen the Chinese government talk about American people the way that she talks about American people. I've never seen anybody who actually is Chinese talk down and be so disrespectful to average Americans the way that these people are at times. Like the grift gets very annoying, bro. Okay, I get it. You feel this way. That's awesome. You should not be talking about war. War is very serious. Would China win a war with the US? They might, but you know what? It would be fucking devastating. The United States is a nuclear armed country. There are nuclear submarines right off the coast, right probably where you live. So don't talk about war. Let's talk about fucking peace. Let's talk about economics. Let's talk about changing things. Just going on and on and on about this stuff, like, it's so stupid. Can't stand that thick grift. I really can't. All right, let's see. MSNBC talks about the sacrifice to Moloch. What is going on here?
And the degree to which, like, this thing that we have, that we see, where we make the sacrifice to Moloch, every so often, um, is a deal with the devil that it seems to me that, like, a discomforting number of people are okay with.
Okay, so then there's a post. The degree to which this thing that we have where we make sacrifice to Moloch, every so often is a deal with the devil that seems okay. That it seems to me like is discomforting, like a discomforting number of people are okay with. And as someone who wants to represent, like, what do you say about the people of public and what public opinion really isn't? Okay, so I don't know why they didn't finish. So I guess he's trying to ask how to deal with the questions about sacrifice to Moloch. Well, the way you deal with it is by not doing it anymore. That's how you deal with it. Um, Moloch is a deity from, I don't think he's from Egyptian. I think it's Canaanite worship, and Moloch is a deity from Canaanite worship that people would sacrifice children to. And there's a lot of cultural mixing during the times of Kingdom of Judah and Israel when they were conquered by Babylon, and the Canaanites kind of reestablished some of their practices, and there were a lot of people who are, of certain origin who adopted the worship of Moloch into their ethos when they're supposed to be following the Ten Commandments. They say, and they're not. They're just worship. They're just following Canaanite worship. Chet Osman posted. Michael Hudson, ancient rulers knew the difference between productive business loans and predatory consumer debt. It's a distinction we've seemingly forgotten. Quote, rulers recognize that productive business loans provide resources for the borrower to pay back with interest, in contrast to consumer debt. This was the contrast that medieval schoolmen later would draw between interest and usury. And forgive them their debts, lending, foreclosure, and redemption from Bronze Age finance to the Jubilee year. Okay, so it's a book that kind of goes into the difference between the two. Well, look, yeah, I mean there was usury back then. Jesus was absolutely against usury, and he talked about the fake clerics in his day or the rabbis in his day who were involved in this stuff. And he talked to, and this has been a debate that's gone on and on. You can have loans, but usury is very dangerous. And when you value money and capital over everything else, you're going to create a system where people will tend to fall back into those old habits. So yeah, let's see. Ugandan president thanks Russia for $53 million in military aid, describing Russia as a historic friend of Africa. Well, there's certainly the reputation of Russia and China in Africa is far better than the reputation of the United States in any European country in Africa. So that can't be denied. Libs of TikTok. Well, these guys are kind of funny, but obviously biased. Breaking: New Mexico State Representative Mariana Anaya just launched a website to track ICE agents' movements and operations across New Mexico. This is one thing I have to say. It's okay to have opinions, but if you work for the government and you swear an oath to the Constitution, you cannot work against a three-letter agency that you disagree with. And I'll tell you why right off the bat. You're She's a state representative. Why don't you argue on the floor of the New Mexico State House why you think illegal immigration should not be punishable by removal from the country for anyway? Why don't you make those arguments and then try to propose a law and then argue with and go to your representatives who represent the state in the United States Congress and give them the same concepts. Instead what you're doing is you are coming on here and you are doxing ICE agents, putting them in harm's way when they're just doing their job. Their job is actually following the law. The law and the Constitution are on the side of the president and ICE. Whether you like it or not, you could dislike it, you could have opinions. And I have opinions. But you can't, as a government agent, you cannot sit there and go, well, I don't agree, so let me work to harm these people. That is not your place. You can't be in Congress or in your state house if you behave that way. So this is something that has to be addressed. You can't have a country if you have people that can violate any rule that they don't like, whereas me as a citizen, I can't violate any rule without repercussions. It's just a fact. Bu- 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 Right. Should ICE be stationed at polls to stop illegals from casting votes? Well, I mean, look, if they think there's a lot of illegals voting, that's one problem. And if they believe that there's somebody they're looking for who committed a crime that's been flagged, and I mean, that's part of it. I guess it's part of their job. But polling centers should be watched by poll watchers and obviously local police. Unless they're called in for a specific reason, I don't know if being stationed there really does anything. Um, Zoran doubling down on his 9/11. You know, Zoran needs to understand he should stay away from 9/11, bro. Stay away from that. Don't try to get empathy out of 9/11 because of racial tensions against your aunt. You know, that's like, I don't know, man. It's just, you're missing the forest from the trees. 9/11 is about the 3,000 people that were murdered, and there should be a review of that whole event. It's not about the potential looks that your aunt got. Okay? I mean, just be real. Not to mention that that also raises questions about where were you even at that point? You weren't even in the country. So I just wish that he dial it down a little bit on that. That doesn't help his cause. Playing victim, I can tell you this, communist parties in socialist countries do not play victim, do not play identity politics, and they don't do this race baiting bullshit. And they're tough on crime. They don't give away free bus passes. I mean, this is why I look at him and I say, "Are you really a socialist?" Because you just don't behave. You behave like somebody who was spoiled as a child, who got to go to the best schools, and even after school, you worked on your mother's film sets, some campaigns, and then ran for state house. Most Americans who've been here for 200 years don't get to run for state house, don't have that kind of money, and are struggling to get by day to day. And if their relatives were killed on 9/11, they don't want to hear about you feeling some kind of way because your aunt got a look. This isn't about your aunt, okay? Get over yourself. Fucking pathetic. Now, I mean, that's where you're starting to really piss me off because it's like disingenuous to even talk about those things and turn it into something about yourself. Just ridiculous. All right. We could do this again later. Say wrap it up. Um, let's see what's one. Trump holds all the cards. Sanctions are just one of them. I met with the CIA director and we discussed many other options. Trump doesn't hold all the cards against Russia. He holds very few of them. He should just be he should tell Zelensky that he's done and has no interest in he has no interest in helping him, and then the war would end tomorrow. So someone's writing, K-pop artists use the N-word as an attack against black people.
Say that word to mean the N word.
Wait a minute.
They can just tell foreigners. Everyone, I'm Korean, and I just want to let you guys know that it's a lie when K-pop fans say that their idols aren't saying the N-word in their songs. In a lot of K-pop songs, you'll hear the word nega, which fans will tell you means you. However, Koreans almost never use that word to mean you, and instead they say 당신 instead. Nega is a running joke for Koreans because they think it's funny that they can say that word to mean the N word, but they can just tell foreigners, oh, we mean you, we're saying you. If you look at how the word is used in context, it becomes clear that it's used in a derogatory way. Because if you take this song by BTS, you can see here they use nega. Then they follow that with nahante, which means that's what I. Irom means call, and andoya means black people. So that word, that's what I call black people. So if you're a K-pop fan, please hold your idols accountable so we can hopefully put an end to this practice of idols putting in this Korean.
I don't speak Korean, so I have no idea if that's true. I think in Chinese, isn't nigga or something like that is kind of like the way people say or hold on or whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I will say K-pop is absolutely, without a question, a it's an imitation of black R&B. If you've ever watched if you've ever seen New Jack, especially from like early 90s R&B and like late 80s early 90s, K-pop artists are just doing the same dance routines and the same kind of style of music that black artists were doing here, and that eventually white artists started doing in the late 90s, like what do you call it, like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and all that. So I mean, it's an imitation of Western music. That's what it is. Um, I don't know the details beyond that, and I don't really care. So a woman in California wears a shirt to the gym. making fun of Charlie Kirk's assassination case. So it's a shirt that has a blood stain on it. Wearing my Charlie Kirk costume to the gym because that's what he would have wanted. Disgusting. Yeah, I mean, look, you gonna mock somebody dying? I mean, obviously she's really fat, she's really ugly, and probably doesn't get laid, and nobody wants her, so she's angry. If Charlie Kirk had ever winked at her, she would have fallen over. Um, I mean, that's just so ridiculous. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. It's just if you're rooting for that kind of violence, then you're not going to like the kind of violence that could come back at you. Remember, people on your political opposite have 70% of the registered guns in this country. So I just wouldn't be making fun of somebody being shot and murdered. Like, how is murder funny? These are the people I'm supposed to believe are on the peace movement that are anti war. They think it's okay to kill people who they disagree with. So, I mean, that's why you just know this country has no values, it has no standards. This is why I believe China and Russia are going to kick our ass, from now on. This country is cooked. Even if you fix a little bit of the economics, you can't fix it long term because the politicians here are corrupt. They all have unlimited. They have these terms that go on for 100 years. You have people in Congress and Senate too long. It's a system based on maximum extraction of capital, so everybody's crooked. They all have to obey the donor class. You're seeing a consolidation of industry across the board. Everybody's businesses, every industry is being consolidated into through mergers and acquisitions. Everything's getting more expensive, and then at the same time, you have people who are supposed to be I guess who in the 60s they would have been on the peace side of things. They're now like they mock people like Charlie Kirk for getting shot. I mean, this is like you just have no culture here. You have nothing. And I don't know, it's hard to imagine things getting much better. um you either have neoconservatives or you have progressives, and they're all disgusting. So, this country's falling apart. Anyway, this video's gone on much longer than I anticipated. Just running through my news feed, commenting. I'm happy to look at more stuff. If anybody has any suggestions or anything, I'll be happy to do that. And I'm going to come up with something a little bit more targeted for a video coming up soon. There's a couple of issues I wanted to talk about a little bit more in depth, but happy to do it. And let's see if the shutdown ends soon. The shutdown, which has been going on for quite some time. Take the money from the shutdown, from the services we're not using, and cut it from the budget and invest it into either healthcare or give it back to the taxpayer. There you go. So, yeah, tomorrow Trump and Xi are going to meet. It's a very important meeting, so we'll see what is said about that. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great afternoon.